In this lesson, we're going to learn about assembly configurations. Configurations in assemblies can control many things, but they're typically used to turn parts on and off, meaning suppressed and unsuppressed, or to change the values of mates. Let's open up an assembly and learn about assembly configurations. From the Chapter 11 folder, there's a subfolder called Engine, and you'll have Engine for Configurations. There's also Engines for Configurations Finished, which you may want to look at after this lesson, but let's look at the Engine for Configurations if you want to follow along. The Configuration Manager in SOLIDWORKS Assemblies is found the same place as it is for parts, on the third tab in the Feature Manager. The Configuration Manager is shared with the Display States panel. These used to be directly related, and now they can be related if you want to have them that way. There's an option in the Display States panel that allows you to link display states to configurations. Sometimes it's nice to have the display states independent of the configurations, and sometimes it's nice to have them linked. We'll talk more about display states in the next lesson, which will be devoted entirely to display states. Configurations can be driven a couple of different ways. You can use tables, or you can suppress things manually. In this case, I already have a table. Let's delete this one, and I'm going to create a couple of configurations manually. First, let's talk about the default configuration. By default, every SOLIDWORKS part and assembly comes with a default configuration, but that's really only because templates are set up that way. There's nothing special about the default name. It can be deleted, but you cannot have a part or assembly without any configurations. You must always have one configuration at least. Drawings do not have configurations. They can use configurations of parts and assemblies, but they cannot be configured themselves. Let's start a new configuration. So right-click on the top-level name of the assembly in the Configuration Manager and Add Configuration. You might notice there are a couple other items in here, such as a configuration publisher and speed pack options. Speed pack is a type of configuration that we'll look at later on for increasing the speed of subassemblies and even drawings. What we want to do now, though, is add this configuration. The configuration we're going to create, let's say we'll just call it longer pipes. We'll look at the options within the configurations later, but for now, all we want to do with this configuration is change the length of the pipes. In order to do that, we already have configurations of these exhaust manifolds set up. Let's open up the exhaust manifold in its own window. And here we have it. Here's the configuration for the exhaust manifold, and we have a longer configuration. So we've got the default and longer. Back in the assembly, part configurations are controlled by the component properties. So if you just left-click on the part, the component properties are available through this icon, and you can select the reference configuration right from the list. So I'll click on longer and say OK. Now this pipe should get longer. Do the same thing on this side. Okay, so now we have a default configuration. And notice that there's a lag when you double click on a configuration. There's a lag between the time you click on it and the time it actually shows. That's because SOLIDWORKS is saving a lot of information inside the file about the part geometry in the assembly. So it's inefficient if you want to use configurations just to turn parts on or off or change their colors. That's what display states are for. Let's add another configuration and change something else this time. We'll right-click at the top and say Add Configuration, and this time call it No Hardware. This time, let's take a look at some of the various things that are available to us for configurations to control. Configuration can have a name. In fact, it must have a name, and it can also have a description. Both of these can be driven by a table, such as an Excel spreadsheet. You can choose to use the description in the bill of materials. Your configurations can also have a comment, and comments are very good things, especially when you work with a lot of other people, and someone else may pick up your assembly and not understand the purpose of a certain way of doing things, or they don't know why you created this assembly. It's good to annotate things when you're working with other people. There are some other bill of materials options, such as assigning the part number that will be displayed in the bill of materials. By default, it's the document name, but you can also use the configuration name or some other user-specified name. This gives you a lot of flexibility, but still has some automated capability as well. Also, if this current assembly is used as a subassembly, then you can control how SOLIDWORKS displays the child components. It can show them, hide them, or promote them to the same level as the subassembly. Other options include when new features and mates are added, they will be suppressed. This is something that you need to watch out for, because if you have a part that you need to add to all configurations, having this option turned on can be a problem. Also, if you want to hide new components, there's an option for that. You can also suppress new components. Now, if hiding new components sounds strange, suppressing sounds even stranger. You can also use configuration-specific colors for the parts. So what we're trying to do here now is create a new configuration with no hardware in it. The new configuration is created and it's active. And so let's switch over to the feature manager. And I'm going to select the first and shift select the last, right click and suppress. You can also drag a box to select a bunch of features or parts, and again, right click and suppress. The suppress functions are also available through the menus. If you go to Edit, you have the option to suppress in this configuration only, suppress in all configurations, or suppress in specified configurations. So if I click on this part, for example, go to Edit, Suppress, Specified Configurations, I can tell SOLIDWORKS which configurations in which to suppress the valve cover. Other configuration options that are available through the menus are being able to unsuppress also this configuration, all configurations, or specified configurations. Probably the one that's the most needed is unsuppress with dependents. This is often used in a part. When you suppress a feature, it will also suppress all of that feature's dependents. To access unsuppress with dependents is available through the menus. And again, you can do it for this configuration, all configurations, or specified configurations. Now that we've created a couple of configurations manually, and we have various things changed in them, and one configuration, we've just changed the configuration of an existing part, and another configuration, we've suppressed several parts. Let's go to the Insert menu, Tables, Design Table. The Design Table is very convenient as it will auto-create, as you might remember from working with part configurations. Also, you can control whether edits to the model will update the design table, or if those edits will be blocked. Also, you can add new rows or columns in the design table for items that are added to the configuration, such as new parameters, new configurations, and so on. Enabling cell drop-down lists can be very convenient, although it may be slower when editing the tables. Let's allow SOLIDWORKS to auto-create this design table. You can see SOLIDWORKS has taken our existing configuration names and it has added configured states for resolved and suppressed. These are our hardware. And also, for the two parts that use different configurations, we have the default and longer configurations. Consolidating all of the changes in all of the configurations into a table of this sort makes understanding the configurations much easier. It also makes the configurations easier to update. To exit the Excel spreadsheet, just click outside the spreadsheet window but inside the SOLIDWORKS window.